Hello everyone, my name is BadNoBX, and today I wanted to go over how to practice level design. So it's been a while since I visited this, and a couple of things have changed. If you want mechanics, which is what you're going to require in order to be able to actually practice, I recommend downloading this game animation sample pack. And once you download it, you'll want to go to Game Animation Sample, Create Project, and if you want to use the new stuff like jumping and catching onto your traversal cube, go to 5.6. And once you hit create, it will set it up right here. It'll verify and create a project for you. Remember where you put it, because it might not launch it and it might not put it up here. So you'll have to go to that folder, go into it, and activate the UE file in there. It'll be the Unreal with the blue logo. Alright, so once it's added on here, you can double click in here, or like I said, go to where you downloaded it, and you'll be able to launch it from the blue file. The file that says the name and has the blue Unreal logo there. And so there are a few things that you need to know when you're designing a level. And that is, throwing a bunch of stuff together that looks real nice isn't level design. It may look nice, and it is a form of level art and type of environment art, but it isn't actual level design. When you're designing a level, you actually have to build an area for the player to go through and be able to actually interact with and do things. And so what we need for that is we need for the character to have actual mechanics. So when you're level designing, you actually have to design based off of what mechanics you have, because if you design off of ones that you don't have, you're not going to be able to get anywhere with them. Alright, so when the project first loads up, you'll see this map that comes with it. And when you hit play, you'll see that you can... Let it finish loading. Alright, so when you hit play, you can see that you can look around, and you can crouch. You can run, jump, and on these traversal cubes specifically, you can climb. So yeah. And then with these ones specifically, on this version, you'll be able to actually jump, climb over, and on certain ones you can jump. We'll see in a second. Climb after you've jumped up to something. So in prior versions, you weren't able to actually pull that off. So that's something that's specific to 5.6, as well as the crouching. You couldn't do that on any of the earlier versions. So yeah, those are the mechanics that we would have to be able to play with in this version of the project. Or if you wanted to use one of the variants for Unreal, you can start up on 5.6. So now that we have our mechanics in mind, it's important to create a blockout. So blockouts are what we use to previs levels. So if I double click into my levels folder, I can right click, I can create a level, and I can name it How To, because this is my How To video. So if we double click into it, it will have nothing in here. If we want to do a external level or go with some of the external lighting, we can do Environment Light Mixture, and we can click every single one of these and create our lights. So there we go. We have our lights and our fog. This will create a atmospheric fog, a height fog, skylight, directional light. If you want to practice real fast, there are a few ways you can do it. One, you can load up one of your programs and actually draw a map, and this will allow you to create pathways and stuff, but you can't test with that. You can only come up with ideas. But with Unreal, you have a few different ways that you can do that. One of my favorite ways to do that is if you hold Shift and hit 5, or you click right here and go down to the modeling mode, you'll see this thing called Cube Grid. So, for a fair warning, if you've never done this before, if you drag across and hit E and create, it will run into an issue where if you hit play, I gotta set the world settings. If you hit play, you'll fall through it. So the reason that is with 5.6, they changed something. And that is, if we go to our project settings, this will help us with every project, every mesh. Do mesh. So new mesh object, we click it. It has enable collision is most of the time turned off, but it's simple and complex. So if you set it as complex as simple, you'll see that this switches from not working to... Oh, right. I already had created that. So now I have to create a new one. Or I could go into it and edit it from there. So if I do it now, I can stand on it. So if you've done it already and you're still phasing through, then double click into it, on your little mesh right here, and you can scroll on down to the collision here and change it to complex as simple. Don't do this for most of your meshes in the actual project for the finished variant because it is rather taxing. So yeah, with that, how you use this cube grid tool is you can click into it, you can hold your left mouse button and drag across, and then you can hit E to go up, Q to go down. And if you have it up, you can easily click and drag across the smaller area, hit Z, and then click 2 points and press E to go up and create a little ramp. So that allows you to do a lot of different things for your level design. So what we're going to do is we have our ideas in mind for crouching, walking. I believe we could sprint. So we're going to do a few things that have to do with that. So with all those in mind, we know that we can climb. So let's create a little area that the character can climb up. So we want a little area that will teach them that they can do that. So let's go ahead and actually go down by Q, 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 Q. Then we can hit E. That'll create a little floor. And now we can connect that floor by dragging across right here, dragging up, and then hit E. So now we've connected the two. And that's what makes this so useful for practicing your level design, is that it's very easy to edit. So now that we can drag across here, we can go 1, 2, 3. 3 creates a good sized wall. So there we go. And then we can drag across over here and do the same thing. And so on until you've got the area surrounded. And that's if we wanted to turn this into a room, which we're going to go ahead and do. So from here, we can do a few things. We can make them build up from here, or we can create a little unique path they have to follow. So let's go ahead and do it from here. Let's go ahead and Z, Q, 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 Q. Okay, so we're going to have to actually build it across. So let's go ahead and do that then. So from here, we're going to go ahead and do it like this. So I don't want them to go all the way up from there, so I'm going to give them a little area that they can walk across to. And then I'm going to hit accept, and then I'm going to go up here, and I'm actually going to connect it right here. So this is where they're going to have to climb up. So with this with the game animation sample pack, under the level prototyping, you'll have a level block traversable. So with this traversable cube, this is what they can climb up. So I can set this right here, and I can make it 2 and drag it over. So what I've done is I've given them a little area that they can start in. And what I can do is I can click the static mesh, and hide visibility. So if I type in viz, or I can scroll down until I find it, and I can uncheck the visible. So what I can do now is if I spawn down here, the player looks around and they see this path right here. It's like, okay, all right, so maybe I can climb. And they can. So now they're up here. So what we've done there is we've given them the idea of teaching them how that they can climb. So with that, they're forced to figure that out, and giving them only one path right here and makes them figure that out. They won't be able to get forward without it. And then, of course, we can make it more immersive by making every single corner have that traversable cube on it. And when you're moving stuff around in Unreal, if you drag it in by clicking and dragging out and then letting go of the left mouse button, you'll see a few things. You'll see this little widget right here, which is your X, Y, Z. And this is your arrows. You have multiple different types of movements. So you have your move, you have your rotate, which all your tools are right here, and then you have your scale, which all have hotkeys, which is E for rotate, R for scale, and then W for move. So those are all required in order to place things down. And one thing you'll notice is if you clicked on something over here in your details tab, if you ever close your details or world settings or outlier, up here in your Windows drop down, you can find all of the things that you require for these little tabs. So yeah, with all this, you're able to do pretty much everything you need for designing a baseline level. You have all your mechanics in mind and you can test through. If I want a player to start down here, I can do a start on this little cube with a drop down. And I can drag it in. This is also where we will get our lights from, which are directional, point, spotlight, rect, and skylight. So our player will start here, and we'll be able to see them facing from any direction we want them to. As well as, if you want to be able to see these widgets, press G to hide them, and G again to unhide them. If you hide something, you can hit H after you click it, and then you can hold Control and hit H again. It will unhide everything. So yeah. With all that, that's how you're able to get going. And then the idea from there is to create different setups. So if I wanted the player to keep using these systems, I need to give them little obstacles. And the goal for practicing is figuring out how to get those in there and get them to run real well for when the players are going through them. So if I could hold Control, I can drag across as well. So let's hold Control and click while dragging. So I can drag across here, I can let go, and of course I'm going to actually lower this by 2. And then I'm going to drag this across all the way. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to, right here, I can control the grid size. So I'm going to lower this to 4, and I'm going to go up by 3. So here, the reason I'm doing that is if I hit play with the character, I now have this area I have to solve. So I can go up here, and I have this little spot that's just too small for the character, so now they have to crouch underneath it. So they either figure out that they crouch or they can't proceed forward. Of course, you could throw up little text that says that they can that they're able to crouch or jump or climb. Really depends on how you want to go about it. But yeah, from here, it's really about controlling the flow of your project and many other little aspects. So what flow is if I want this level to run real well, what I've done is I've created a U shape right here. So the character goes up, they already know they can't go that way, there's nothing to learn from it. So the character is inclined to search around in the direction they haven't been in. So instead of them just looking around and wasting time, they instinctively already know that if they go this way, they'll find the path. So I've designed it that way, so that way the level flows properly, so that way nothing is really lost and the player's time isn't wasted. Now, don't get me wrong, there's times when you want to use systems that are a bit harder to get across, but they're not for every game. So I wanted to go over that real fast. Every different kind of game tends to have their own type of flow. And one thing I didn't mention is if you place the mesh down, there are multiple different ways that you can move it along. So if I want to move it along this way, this is the world location. If I rotate it, it will automatically follow along this path. But if I move my mouse up here, I see this little spot right here. So it looks like a little world. It says world space coordinate, so it moves based off the world. If I click that, it's based off the local. So now I can move it based off of where it's angled. So that allows you to do multiple different little setups and stuff. So yeah, now from there we can easily go about and do other things. Like if I wanted to add a roof on this structure, I can, because it's all set up to work real well. So I can hit Q, IE. Now I can set up walls up here. So let's go ahead and hit 5 and undo that, because it's going to mess up everything if I don't. All right, I'll drag across, and then we'll go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Then the final one, 1, 2, 3. We'll put a ceiling here too as well, so make it fast. So from here, I want the character to have to climb up to get out. So we'll go ahead and put a hole right here. So the player has to get up here. So now I have to give them a path for them to get up here. So they've learned that they can climb. They've learned about ramps. So let's go ahead and make them think about it. And you could do another thing where you could make it to where they could push it using physics and all this other stuff. But we're going to keep it simple for this video and just help you get into the idea of how to practice doing this stuff. So if I set this to 2 and then set it to too tall, the player should be able to reach up there. So I want them to be able to reach up there but not be able to climb up this thing right off the bat. So there's a few ways I can do that. What I can do is I can actually slide this forward to be in this cube right here. So now they get up right there. So what I'm going to do is I kind of want to edit how I have this ceiling right here. So I'm going to kind of drag this over here. Q, 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 Q. I'm going to get rid of this bit right here. In fact, I'm going to get rid of this entire half the wall. Ooh. All right, so there we go. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to slide it over against the wall because I want to do a few different things with this. So what I can do with this is I can actually slide half of it into the wall right here and then slide it up the rest of the way. And let's go ahead and get it situated to where it's all the way connected. Because I kind of want to play with a few things with this. So because it's halfway, I kind of want to slide it all the way up. Now I'm going to duplicate it and slide it down to the height that they need it to be. So with that, I now have an area that the character can go up, and it looks like a little bit of the wall is actually there. So from there, I can actually slide it on down to being, I need to copy and paste, which is Control C and then Control V. And I can hit W again to move to this movement system. So there we go. Now we've got it slid over here. So now they've got a baseline basic movement puzzle to get across. So that is all they need to know. So if that's not enough, you can actually go a little bit further, copy and paste, slide, and then slide it over one more, and actually move it to about halfway over. So now that they've got this little blatant, obvious puzzle area that they can solve. And that's going to really help them figure out the mechanics for the game, because this is a baseline level. So with all that set up, I need to place a few lights around. I'm going to use some. I'm actually going to use some rect lights. So rect lights are rectangle lights. Spotlights are lights that work like spotlights. Rectangle lights work with barn doors and use a circle around them to work instead of just having a set area like a spotlight. A point light just flashes light in every single direction from a point in space. Those are the ones that are important to know right now. So I'm going to take this and I can control the source width and source length for this. And this allows me to cover a large room like this with just this one light, which it's not perfect for every scenario, but in a situation like this where I'm lighting up a large room and it's just for testing, it works great. Then you have static, stationary, and movable lighting. Movable lighting means it's dynamically updating as it goes across. It's the most taxing, but it also gives you the highest detail when done right. When you have an extremely strong computer. Stationary is the one where you have to build lights in order for it to work. It can run far, far, far smoother than movable lights. And then you have static, which runs even better than stationary, but static does not have baked shadows. So if we go across, and we get over here, we'll have everything lit up. Lit up here, and then we duplicate it up above. So yeah, there we go. And then we're going to add in a post-processing so that way we can actually, if we go to Outlier, we can click our lights, shift click, and then we can movable. So if you click from one to the other, holding shift, you can go all of them. I set it to movable for that. So I'm going to add a post-processing, and that is visual effects on the drop down, post-processing volume. First thing you want to do is type in unbound and check this little box. This allows it to reach everywhere and not just inside of this cube. And what I'm going to do is go to exposure, because currently it is set to have a -10 and +20 on the max EVs, which are trying to simulate the idea of going inside of a light room and then going into a dark area and vice versa. So if I set these to 0, we get a much more even light. Or even if I set it to a 1 and -1, I still get a much more even light. And then I can also exponent control right here. And exposure control right here, I can raise it up a little bit and get some of that light back. Now it's really just controlling it with my lights in here. So if I set all of these to 10, I get a much better setup. I'm going to go with 15 actually. So there we go. Now we're not as super high dense fog as we were before. So if I slide this forward, we can see this ramp. So what I need to do is I actually need to add another light. I'm going to add a spotlight for this one. So right over here above this ramp, I need it to be extra lit. So I'm going to add a spotlight right here. So that way the player could definitely see the spotlight. Definitely see the ramp. So there we go. So now when the player hits play, they load up, they can look around, they can move, and they can come up here. And when they try and climb, they can. And when they go over here, because I did it right, they can climb over here as well. Then because, like I said, they don't have any reason to look back there, they'll come over here and they'll look around and they'll see this hole over here. It's like, okay. And that'll teach them, okay, I can crouch underneath this. And now that they already know that they can climb, they see this and they're like, oh, I can climb. I can just go right up this. So sometimes with the traversal cube, it's important to know that if you don't have enough of it visible or available, it will not actually be climbable. So that is one issue I've noticed with this code for the level traversable cube. But other than that, it's useful. If you notice, none of these have that little line right here. That is what's required for it to work. So if I drag this back over, oh, you can hold Alt and hit 3 to go into unlit mode, Alt 4 to go into lit mode. So I'm going to slide this back into place, use unlit mode to see. I'm going to raise it all the way up and slide it across. Now I'm going to duplicate it and then slide it on down. Slide it over, duplicate, slide on down, slide it over, and then the final little cube we had right here. Slide on down, and slide over. So now we've got everything in place again. If I go up here where play is, I can go to these 3 dots and switch it from default player start to current camera location. And then I can hit play right here, and it'll play from my camera location. So now I can go over here and make sure it's all working. Oh, looks like that height messed up a little bit. Let's go ahead and retest that. So it should be grabbing lower than that, but it seems to be messing up. So that's something we would have to fix a little bit later. But as we can see, everything is working just right. Yeah, it should be grabbing directly where this line is. So that's just a little mess up on the code. That would be something we would tackle in a later on project. So yeah, this is your baseline of how level design works, coming up with your mechanics that you need, having them set up, and then designing based off of the mechanics so that way you have needs you need to fulfill. Because if you're designing and just building something that looks nice and using fully fledged models, it's not necessarily level design. And if you run into issues, you're going to have to redo a lot more than if you just pre-vised it and tested until you got it working real well. Now, I know this is rather simplified, but this is everything you really need in order to actually start practicing level design. From there, of course, there's a lot of techniques and everything else involved, but this is how I wanted to talk to you about how to start. And everything I showed, it comes in that free package with Unreal. Every little project can use the Shift 5 cube grid. And if you ever need more things with it, there are a few other things. If I drag across, you'll see that if I right here, the orientation, I can rotate this. It allows me to rotate how the cubes are placed, as well as I can rotate the angle of which they're placed. So there's really a lot you could play with in order to mess with these things. So yeah, I hope you all learned a lot from this video. I know there is a lot to go over. A lot of it seems simple, but if you've never done this before, none of it is simple. If you really want areas like this to look fancy, you can actually go right here. Oh, let's hit right here to revert it. And you can actually, let's drag it a little bit forward. That's how we're going to do it. 1, 2. 1, 2, and what we're going to do right here is we're going to hit Z, click, click, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do the same thing over here. Ooh. Yep. 1, 2, 3, Z, and right here, same thing. 1, 2, 3, done. And you'll see this creates a fun little area that guides the player's eyes. And that's a few different things you need to keep an eye on, is using your lighting to tell the player important areas to go. So like if this wasn't obvious enough, you could really take a light and you can put a spotlight over it. It's not a crazy amount of extra effort, but to some players, it can mean the difference between finding an area and knowing where to go, and just sitting there not knowing what to do. So yeah, it's all about guiding the player, setting up those flow, keeping track of everything that's in here, using the mechanics, keeping them in mind. And then you also have to keep track of the pacing of the level, how long it takes to get through. That's all things that will come with time. Of course, there are little things that you could put in there to do it. There's little techniques, but really a lot of it will develop over time. So yeah, this is all you'll need for just getting started. I hope you all learned a lot from this video. If you did, please consider hitting like. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing. And other than that, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a good night.